Now you might notice that as you're working with creating curves, they sometimes are kind of hard to see against the backdrop of the image that's mapped onto your UV shell. There's a couple of ways we can remedy that. If I'm selecting let's go to my curve layer here. If I select a curve, it does show up. However, again, it can be, depending upon the colors you have in your background, can be kind of hard to see. So there's a couple of things we can do. I can change from a default view in the viewport to, say, a textured view, and that gives my image a lot more contrast, darker colors, and so they can cause curves to show up a little bit better. But for the most part, what we can do is go back over to the shader tree. Now, fortunately, remember, we made the UV mesh a separate material than the shoe. So now we can manipulate this material all we want and not affect the shoe. So I'm just going to select the material, and I'm going to go to the trans here, material trans. You can see that edge tab there, and I'm going to go down to where it says transparent amount. I'm just going to click and just drag this transparent setting up, and you can also set it here. Just plug in a number. As you can see, the background image becomes more transparent. Actually, my whole background object becomes more transparent, and now I can see my curves. They show up really well against that background image, and I can still see the background image well enough to lay my curves down on them. Now that we have our curves on this side of the shoe, punching nice holes or cutouts in our material there, we need to get them on this side as well. Now, it would be sheer torture for us to sit there and just go to the curve tool and build curves on each one of these little cutouts when we have them over here. So the best thing to do then, I think, is just to mirror these onto this side. Now, this isn't a perfectly symmetrical object, and I don't expect it to be. However, I can make some quick changes and modifications as we go along. So let's do that. The first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and turn off the curve fill right there, so I can work a little bit faster with this. And I'll go into polygon modes, go into the curves layer. Now I'll select the first curve that I want to mirror there, and I'll just hit the escape key to get out of the curve edit mode and select the rest of these guys right there. And I'm going to go over to the duplicate toolbox, go down here to mirror. I'm going to click somewhere right about in the middle here. Let me move this over so I get a little more screen real estate, and I think I can close this down for right now too. All right, and so click right there, and there we have, there's our curves. Now all I need to do is just adjust these to where they need to be. Now I can see that this curve is really close to this edge, so I want to be careful about that. But let's go ahead and just edit these and line them up. Okay, now we've got that done. Let's go ahead and turn on the curve fill tool. Now we can see that it created filled positive curves for these new curves we added here. And all we need to really do is just flip those around. So I'm going to go back into polygon mode, and if I click on that one, hit the F key, it should bore a hole right into our material. Give it a second. There it is. And yeah, so let's go ahead and do that, flip all the rest of them. And in the meantime, I'm just going to turn off the curve fill tool just to accelerate this process. And there we go. All right, it's just that simple. All right, now let's very quickly take a look at the fill parameters again. If I click there, I'm going to open up the mesh ops here, the curve fill. Let's click on that one there. Then go to the curve fill mesh op here. We have a paving level of 6. Sometimes if the paving level is really low, like 5, which is the lowest you can go with paving, you might get some errors in some corners and things like that might be near the bottom. But we can simply just increase that number to increase the number of polygons between each of these curves. The other thing, you'll notice that occasionally you'll get some areas poking through here. And one of the best ways to fix that is to go to the UV transform and simply adjust the push parameter to increase the distance between the transformed polymesh and the object you're transforming to. Since this is going to be a panel that'll be mostly above other panels, we want to give it a little bit of a gap or some breathing room between this and the surface of the other panels that we're going to make. All right, there we go.